Good afternoon, family. This is Pastor T with another installment of Connecting the Dots Unscripted. I am the author of the book Stop Falling for the Okie Doke, How the Lie of Race Continues to Undermine Our Country. And I want to talk a little bit about the Electoral College today because it's being discussed a lot in the media. Right now, there are a lot of permutations and calculus being conducted to figure out how a person who is expected not to win the popular vote can still be declared the winner in November. And that troubles me because in no other election except for the presidency can a person lose by one vote, or as in the last election, 2.9 million votes, and be declared the winner. And I don't know if that troubles you, but it troubles me. There's something from the Star Wars film family that they would talk about Jedi Mind Tricks. And a Jedi Mind Trick basically would work simply because it ran counter to your established thought patterns. And so somebody being declared the winner when they have actually lost should run against everyone's established thought patterns. But because of miseducation, foisted upon all of us in our education from primary school through secondary school in the United States, we have been indoctrinated. And indoctrination is simply the process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. And so since we've been taught it and spoon-fed it in school, we accept it uncritically and think, well, this is just the way it is. And so therefore, we accept the fact that somebody can lose an election but still be given the keys to the White House. That is especially troubling given where we are right now in the middle of a global pandemic, the things that have led to it, the way it has been mismanaged. And I'm not speaking about this from a partisan political perspective. I'm saying simply that we expect people who are running the government to have a level of efficiency and effectiveness in doing so, such that when an event occurs that challenges and threatens the nation's health, that they respond effectively and efficiently in the best interest of all of we the people. So one of the arguments that comes forth with respect to the Electoral College is, well, it's enshrined in the Constitution and it can't be changed. Beloved, there are 27 amendments to the Constitution. They had 10 when we started in the late 1700s. It has been changed 17 times. The 12th Amendment changed the Constitution to say, you know what? The president and vice president should actually run together. It shouldn't be whoever comes in first is president and the second is vice president. So it was changed. The 13th to 15th Amendments after the Civil War represented a change, ending slavery, granting voting rights to those who had been enslaved, equal protection under the law, at least in theory. The 17th Amendment allowed for the popular election of senators. You probably didn't know and were not aware that prior to 1913, U.S. senators were elected by state legislatures. It's only been this way for the last century. The 18th Amendment, Prohibition. The 21st Amendment, oops, we made a mistake with Prohibition. 1913, 1919, the 18th Amendment is in. 1933, the 21st Amendment is in to repeal the 18th Amendment. Women's right to vote, the 19th Amendment. Oh my goodness, over half of our citizens don't have the right to vote. I guess we should have women vote too. The 23rd Amendment, DC presidential vote. Oh gee, several 100,000 of our US citizens don't get to vote for president. Yet they live here and pay taxes. I guess we should fix that. And on and on. The Constitution has been changed 17 times. It can be changed again. And so the thing, as I look at the indoctrination and the Jedi mind tricks as well, this is just the way it is and it can't be changed. That is a lie. Don't believe it. And right now, beloved, frankly, the Electoral College is, in my estimation, the 18th century's gag gift on the 21st century. And frankly, if I belonged to a political party who had to figure out what states they could narrow the election to the point where, well, if we can figure out how to suppress votes in these 3 states, steal votes in these 3 states, prevent people from voting, have voting machines breaking down, have ridiculously long lines in these 3 or 4 states, we can win even though we lose the election by millions. That's a Jedi mind trick. That's nonsense. And here's the other thing concerning the Electoral College, which really troubles me. Frankly, it is extremely undemocratic. And here's what I mean. Since the Electoral College is winner take all, which actually every election is. So if you have 2 million votes and somebody has 1,999,000 votes, you win because you won by 1 vote. That's fine. But in the states, the Electoral College essentially ignores the will of millions of their citizens. So in California, for instance, in 2016, while the winner of that state had 8.7 million votes, what they essentially told the next 5 million voters or so, 4.7 for the second votes cast and so forth, is we don't care what you think. All of your electoral votes, all 55 of them are going to go to one person, even though 5 million people voted for somebody else. In Texas, the same story. 4.6 million people voted for one person, 3.8 million voted for another. We don't care what 3.8 million plus other votes. So basically 4 million people, we don't care what you think. All 38 of our electoral votes are going to one person. The rest of you sit down and shut up. We don't care what you think. Your vote didn't count. That should bother you, and on and on. And so, rather than continuing to allow our nation to be jerked around basically by this gag gift from the 18th century, where you can lose but still be declared the winner, we need to have a popular vote. One other thing and then I'm through. Some people will say, well, we need the Electoral College to protect some states from other states, to protect the middle of the country from the coast. That was the intention. No. What does James Madison, the constitutional architect who helped to write the Constitution, say about it? Quoting from Stop Falling for the Okie Doke. Constitutional architect and slave owner James Madison himself stated these words about the creation of an electoral college. There was one difficulty of a serious nature, however, attending an immediate choice by the people. In other words, you vote, your votes determine it, period. The right of suffrage was much more divisive in the North rather than the Southern states, and the latter could have no influence in the election on the score of Negroes, the enslaved stolen Africans. The substitution of electors obviated this difficulty and seemed on the whole to be liable to the fewest objections. If that's what they needed to do in the late 1780s to pull a country together, I don't agree with it. It's history. It's done. The country was pulled together. Why then do you still need something that the entire calculus was how to figure out how to count the votes, because slaves don't get to vote, the enslaved don't get to vote? Why are we still even thinking about that after the Civil War ended in 1865? But here we are, over 140 years later, dealing with the same nonsense, and it is going to kill this country. Again, this was not established to protect the middle from the coast, because everybody was on the coast when the country was established. Everybody was on the East Coast. Virginia was the largest state. Pennsylvania was the next largest state. It wasn't about how do we block Virginia from dominating the national will? How do we block Pennsylvania from dominating the national will? It was, how do we count for the southern states, where Virginia, for instance, they had close to 800,000 people, and around 40% of those folks were enslaved, stolen Africans. Okay? So how do we allow Virginia's vote to count, but not count entirely, because almost 300,000 people we're not even considering to be human beings or citizens? That's why the Electoral College was established. That's why it is way past time for it to be removed by constitutional amendment, so that your votes count in every state you live in, and the total of the votes cast will determine who wins, just like in every other election. This is the latest installment of Connecting the Dots Unscripted. Over and out.